Hello, my name is Salma Sabbour. I'm a solution engineer for Hybris EMEA. It's important to start with some expectation setting here. If you have no clue what Hybris does, and you were hoping that this session would give you a head start, then you're probably watching the wrong video. Over 180 customers today are already leveraging the power of this integrated suite. We even had many joint customers long before the acquisition. But I'm also here to tell you that one size does not fit all. So what does that mean? There are three possible ways to integrate or share information between the SAP ERP and Hybris. The first is the loosely coupled scenario, which is also known as Asynchronous Integration. This makes Hybris the hero system. Hybris is more in control, and less communication happens with the back-end ERP, which makes it more flexible, fast, which is typical for high-volume transactions such as in B2C scenarios. At the other extreme, there is the tightly coupled scenario, which is also known as the synchronous or real-time integration. In this scenario, Hybris regularly communicates with ERP to check for information before actions are taken. You can imagine it is less flexible, so it's not really suitable for the demanding high-volume B2C, but more for the B2B scenarios where there is a high reliance on complex ERP logic. And in between, of course, there's the gray area, the hybrid scenario, which is the best of both worlds. More clarity will be given on that shortly. But what does it technically mean? How does it work? And how is information passed between ERP and Hybris? Technically, there are two mechanisms for information sharing. For the asynchronous or periodic updates, we use the green Hybris Data Hub, which is a component in Hybris that is used to integrate with the external data sources. A typical scenario is the master data upload, like when the ERP tells Hybris, hey, here you go, this is all the product data. For the synchronous or the real-time integration, Hybris uses remote function calls or RFCs to request certain information from SAP ERP. For example, hey ERP, what's the current credit limit for this customer? So let's explore the three scenarios, the B2C loosely coupled scenario, the B2B tightly coupled scenario, and the hybrid scenario. In the loosely coupled scenario, like all scenarios, it always starts with a master data upload from ERP to Hybris. This is when we use the green data hub to share product information, customer information, pricing information, for example. Once done, you can see that there is no communication between Hybris and ERP during the customer buying process, which is solely handled by Hybris. An order is even created at the Hybris side. Then, this order is replicated to ERP, where subsequent activities like invoicing or delivery are handled. In this scenario, Hybris is independent. This assures the best response time to customers, which is needed typically in B2C, and this would be particularly relevant if there are no heavy customizations in the ERP business logic at the back end. Moving to the B2B or tightly coupled scenario, as usual, the process starts with an initial master data upload for customers' data, products' data. Then again, the customer buying experience is solely handled by Hybris. But the key difference to the picture here are the regular calls from Hybris to ERP requesting information. Things like availability checks, customer-specific pricing, credit checks. And then, a second key difference here is the fact that no order was created at the Hybris side. The order was directly created in the SAP ERP. And this leverages all the complex order processing logic that is likely to exist in ERP in a B2B scenario. And then, as usual, the further invoicing and delivery is also handled in SAP ERP. So in summary, with the synchronous integration, you get real-time information sharing between SAP ERP and Hybris. You utilize the complex business logic that you would have already invested in your back end. And this is typical in a B2B scenario. Now we move to the best of both worlds, the hybrid approach. In this scenario, we also start with the typical data upload asynchronously. The buying experience is handled in Hybris as usual. Similar to the synchronous real-time mode, regular calls between the ERP and Hybris are done for price checks, for example. But on the other hand, similar to the asynchronous flexible model, the order is generated directly in Hybris and then replicated to ERP for further processing, which ensures very high response time in Hybris. The key takeaways with the hybrid model is the fact that it is more flexible. You choose what steps would be synchronous and what other steps would be asynchronous. And this really combines the strong business logic in ERP with the fast, flexible order processing in Hybris. And this is typically the most common approach used in most implementations. So as a flash summary, for the asynchronous model, Hybris created the order. I'd say again, Hybris is the hero system. It's more in control. No calls throughout the customer buying experience happen to ERP. And this would be relevant in a high volume sales environment like the B2C, especially if there are no heavy or very complex ERP logic at the back end, so simple logic. In the synchronous model, on the other hand, ERP is the hero system. ERP is more in control. So an order is created directly in ERP and not in Hybris. There are regular calls to ERP during the customer buying experience for price checks, availability checks, and credit checks. This would be relevant for low volume businesses where there is a very complex business logic involved in the back end. In the gray middle world comes the hybrid model, where Hybris creates the sales order like the asynchronous model. Nevertheless, we have some calls to ERP during the customer buying process, things like price checks to check for customer-specific pricing. This would be highly relevant in case of high volume requirements, nevertheless that are combined with complex ERP business logic around pricing, for example. At the end of this session, it's important to recall one thing, that no one size fits all, because this is one of the key strengths of combining two of the key market leaders together as one. Thank you.